Hi kids, just as a warning, this video will probably be kinda long, so grab your snacks and settle in. You're in for a treat. If you didn't know, I am a filmmaker. Well, kinda. I'm a film student. I was supposed to direct a short, maybe 3-minute film that I wrote around the end of this semester, but Miss Rona came to town and I had to go home, and so all films at my school were effectively canceled. But it's not the end of the world. I can still make films all by myself without a crew or actors. How, you may find yourself asking? In The Sims. The Sims 2 specifically. Before I go any further, I should point out that I'm reading from a script. At the time of me writing this script, May 9th, I haven't started doing anything yet. I'm going to be updating this as I go, which should be fun. The reason I'm not going on camera and off script for this is because I have a tendency to ramble, and I want my thoughts to be concise for this. Plus, I have a feeling this is going to get pretty long, and I personally just don't want to go through 30 plus minutes of footage. Moving on. So, why The Sims 2 specifically, and not, I don't know, a newer game? Well, a couple of reasons. 1, I don't own The Sims 3. 2, I don't really know what I'm doing in The Sims 4, which I do own. And 3, I already have a good amount of machinima making tools and experience for Sims 2, which I will explain later. So, filmmaking is done in a few stages. Writing, pre-production, production, and post-production. Which is a little vague, I'll admit, but I've broken it down into 6 stages for this video. Concept, writing, character creation, set creation, filming, and editing. The concept stage is more or less done. I have a general idea of what I want to do. I'm thinking something horror related, 2 to 3 characters. I'm not going to do the script I was supposed to do in school, mostly because it wouldn't really suit the medium, since it's pretty dialogue driven and there won't be any voice acting because, it's just me. I'm not going to make a previous script I've written because, well, I don't have that many, and the ones I do have, I'm not really vibing with them. So, I'm going to make a new one, ideally under 5 pages. So, I'll be back when that happens. As I started writing the script, I kinda hit a wall. So, I left it alone for the rest of the day. While I was in bed that night, I realized something. This medium only really lends itself to one genre, and that is cheesy YA high school drama. So I decided to do a big brain maneuver and combine the genres. I must admit, it took me way too long to actually get the machinima script done. I started this process on the 9th. It's the 14th, as I am writing this section. No, it didn't take me 6 days to write a script. I actually wrote all of it today, the 14th, because, like I said, I hit a wall. But I'm finally done. The script ended up being what I didn't want it to be, dialogue heavy and over 5 pages. Well, it's only 6, but still. The dialogue part won't be an issue since I've come up with a spicy idea for how to handle it. I'll have to say though, I kinda like it. It can definitely be reworked a little to be shot live action. Now it's on to the next part. This one will be easy. All I have to do is open up Sims 2 Bodyshop, a sim making tool that comes with the game, that is normally used to create and package sims for others to use, and start making our 3 main characters. There will be some extras, but I have decided that I'll just give some townies a makeover for that. I've never been very good at making unique sim faces. However, back in my Simbler days, someone made a method to randomize sim features. I have since forgotten who, sorry. Lilith Sims comes to mind, but I have no idea. Bodyshop took a really long time to open, which worried me a little since it is a really old program and my computer is newer, but eventually started working after being put in compatibility mode and run as administrator. So, onto the time lapse. It took me a while to figure out how the sim making method worked, but I'll explain it since most of it was off screen. The first part was to create the unique and, yes, very extreme face shape, which is basically randomly generated. Originally I had 2 GIFs to do that with. One cycled through the numbers 1 through 10, and the other cycled between backwards and forwards. You're supposed to put the GIFs in Chrome, where you can click and drag it and it would stop at whatever frame it was on. I think Chrome changed the way GIFs work because I was always getting a 1, which was the first frame of the GIF. So I used 2 random number generators instead, one that was 1 through 10 and another that was 1 through 2, which worked well. The first number was the amount of clicks on each face modifier in the modifier section, and the second was to either go backwards or forwards. The second part I was a little stumped on still. I have a link to random.org, They gave me 2 columns of random numbers from 1 to 26, I think. There were 6 rows for the 6 parts of the faces section in Bodyshop to smooth out the grotesqueness. Each face preset has a slider. All the way to the left is your original face, and all the way to the right is the preset. So I set them at half or a little under half, and that's how we got our faces. After that was just hair, makeup, and clothes. There's a weird bug where I couldn't change the hair for the first sim that I made, but I think it should be okay once I import them into the game. Once I make the other 2 sims off camera, I will be on to the next step. There are 4 locations: a classroom, the hallway outside of that classroom, the woods, and a pond. For this, I'll need 2 lots. One small one for the classroom and hallway, and a larger one for the woods and pond. So, I boot up the game, and to my dismay, the window is tiny, 800 by 600. I admittedly haven't played The Sims 2 in a long time, plus I got a new 1080p monitor. This is an old game, and it's not very optimized for newer systems and larger monitors. I thought I fixed it with a program called Graphics Rules Maker, but I guess not. I had to do some troubleshooting, and now it's just not booting at all. One restart later, and the game still won't launch. More troubleshooting, and I'm reminded of how I fixed it before by deleting 2 cache files in the game directory. And it starts, but it's still 800 by 600, so I'm back at square one. Oh boy. It's okay though, because I eventually fixed it. All I had to do was edit 2 lines in a config file. Anyway, on to the main event, set decoration. I chose Pleasant View for no particular reason, I just really like the neighborhood. Anyway, cue the time-lapse. While this time-lapse is time-lapsing, I like to mention that, yes, you're going to see a lot of custom content. Unfortunately, it's been a while since I've been in the Sims 2 sphere, like at least a few years. I have long since forgotten where I've gotten a lot of this stuff, but most of it either came from modthesims.info or various tumblers. If you catch the tooltips as they come up, they'll usually have the source. Well, I'm kinda lying. Some of the school stuff comes from Around the Sims 2's school set, but I only know this because the creator was nice enough to put the stuff in the collection for me to find it while I was trying to decorate. Now that the school is done, it's on to the woods and pond area. For this one, I just plopped down a huge lot and went ham with some pine trees. Hopefully they're dense enough where the houses in the neighborhood don't show through them. Hopefully I'll remember to turn that off when it comes time to film. In the making of the pond, you'll see me do this wacky thing of putting a 1x1 square of pool down, which turns the water all pretty and stuff. It's a mod. I don't know where I got it from. Again, sorry. So, we're 3 steps down and it's still the 14th of May. I worked on this all day. I feel like a true filmmaker. However, it's about 6 p.m. at the time of me writing this. I'm a little worn out, so the next step will be reserved for tomorrow. Before I close everything out for the day and start playing Rimworld or something, I like to explain how filming will be done. Instead of using OBS, which is what I use to record my screen and some gameplay so far, I'll be using The Sims 2's in-game video capture feature. Earlier in the process, I edited yet another config file to allow me to record 1080p footage at 24 frames per second since, you know, this is cinema. First, I need to create a household with my actors and move them into the first set. I end up fixing one of the actors' hair, and things go smoothly. Once on the lot, I need to put down a couple more tools, the Sim Blender, so I can summon townies to be extras and add them to the household, then a few animation triggering objects, and lastly, an object used to stop in-game time, so it doesn't suddenly become night while I'm filming. Next, I try to add more money to the household so that they can eventually move on to the next set, which is kinda expensive. I try to open the cheat box with Ctrl-Shift-C like usual, but it isn't working. Eventually, I figure out the software for my graphics card uses it for something, so I have to disable that. I should probably just uninstall it altogether, but I'll do that later. I motherload a few times and turn on move objects so I can move my actors around. Once my 6 extras are summoned, I give them their makeovers and move them to where they're supposed to be on set, and to my dismay, the seated students start talking to each other, even though I turn free will off. I save and accidentally exit to the neighborhood screen, but before I can even think about how to make them stop, my computer blue screens. Thankfully, everything is saved, but now I have to go through the maddening process of waiting for my computer to restart, which takes at least 10 minutes now for whatever reason. and boot up the game again, which also takes an inordinately long amount of time because, well, the game's old and I have almost 6 gigabytes of mods and custom content. Frustrated, I decided to resume until after I'd had lunch. Lunch came and went, and I calmed down enough to boot up the game again. Now that everything is in working order, it's shoot time, and boy did I forget how hard this is. Trying to find all of the right animations and string them together is difficult, but when I got it right, it was dope, and I felt like a cinematic genius. I also got way too excited when I remembered how to save camera positions. It's the little things, you know. I was very slowly making my way through the first scene when it happened. My computer froze. These hangs happen not a lot, but not infrequently either. I always have to hard restart my computer when it happens. First the blue screen and now this. I am fuming. The previous day was so productive for me, yet here I am at 4 p.m. I've barely started filming. My PC has joshed up twice. I'm not calling it yet though. Another hang or blue screen is very unlikely at this point, so I have to power through. I have to finish at least the first couple of scenes, so back at it I go. Except almost immediately after I typed this section, my computer hung again. I think I might have to call it quits for the day so I can look for a new PC or something. But I feel like I just can't give up on today. I need to get this done. After a few hours of desperately Google searching the same thing for the 10th time with the same results, actually shedding actual tears, and browsing for a new computer, I think I can get back to filming. I need for this day not to be wasted. Despite it all, I finished the first 2 scenes at the first set. I think it went okay. Whether or not that is true remains to be seen. It's now 8 p.m., but I don't want to stop. I have to keep going. So I finished the next scenes. It's now nearly 10 p.m. My eyes are bleary. They're probably red, but I finished filming. Over 100 clips, 6 gigs of uncompressed footage. I did it. And it only took my computer crashing 3 times. Hopefully, it's all there tomorrow when I finally begin editing. Editing. Home stretch. The previous day was a wild ride, and I can't guarantee today will be any better. It's entirely possible that I'll have to get some additional footage, but I'm gonna resist the urge to do that. I got up strangely early this morning, and barring 3 consecutive computer crashes, I should be able to finish this today. So, editing, my favorite part. I've decided to do a few things for this. Firstly, the use of sound effects and ambience. Before, when I was like 14 or something, I'd only add often copyrighted music to my machinimas. That was fine and dandy, but I think adding some subtle ambiance and sound effects in appropriate places can make this really great, thanks to freesound.org. Big ups freesound.org. I can do just that. Next, I don't want to do just basic subtitles for the dialogue. I've come up with a funky, fresh idea on how to do that, but I'll withhold it so you guys can watch and see for yourselves. First, before I add any extras, I'll need to get the basic cut together. Before I can do that though, I have already run into some problems. Some of the clips import just fine, but it looks like all of my clips post yesterday's blue screen of death are throwing errors. I'm glad I got up early. Time to troubleshoot. For whatever reason, AVI files aren't supported in Adobe Premiere Pro, even though I already imported some AVI files. Anyways, I had to use Handbrake to convert them. So, the first pass of the first scene is done, and I immediately realized my mistakes. The shots are so short. When I actually press the record button in-game, it slows to a crawl, and I can't judge how long the shot actually is, leading to these 3-second shots. Also, I really should have made a shot list. For the uninitiated, a shot list is exactly what it says on the tin, a list of shots required to get adequate coverage for a scene. I debated making one but didn't for some silly reason, and I'm now regretting that decision because, surprise, surprise, I had to reuse a shot or two. One other glaring issue is that my sim actors never seem to be looking at each other when they talk. I legit have no idea how to fix that other than placing them directly in front of one another, and that just won't work for certain scenes, so we'll just have to excuse that quirk. Oh yeah, and the few extras running like madmen into the hallway when I just wanted them to walk. I don't really care about that one because it made me laugh when it happened yesterday. It's just so weird looking. Honestly, this is turning out so janky that I find it endearing rather than annoying. Alright fellas, rough cut completed. For some reason, in the final scene, the dimensions of a few clips changed from 1920 by 1080 to something wacky, and I ended up getting anamorphic bars unintentionally. Either way, we're looking at a little over 7 minutes for our machinima. All that's left is dialogue, sound and music, and color correction. I took a little break after adding the first text box because I thought I would have to manually add the in and out keyframes, but then I remembered that presets existed and got back to editing. Work smarter, not harder, kids. I also had to resist the urge to play Terraria instead of edit since it's the 16th currently and Journey's End is finally out. I can wait a little longer, I suppose. I'm at the final scenes, adding the last few text boxes, and now that there's actually dialogue, things are shaping up nicely. I am almost able to forget how utterly janky it is. And just like that, the hardest parts are done. Now all that's left is sound and color correction. Off to free sounds I go. Big ups once again. I need some music as well. And for that, I'll hit up my boy Kevin MacLeod. With the music in place, all that's left is color. Some basic correction plus a spooky color treatment should do the trick. Easy peasy, not much to it. Now all that's left is a title. I'll be honest, I'm absolute trash at coming up with titles, so I settled on a generic horror sounding one. I did decide that maybe I should put in some real effort into this and boot it up After Effects to give it the real pizzazz. I would have used it for the text boxes, but using After Effects for longer than 30 minutes will set my head on fire. And now it's finally done. Time for exporting. Weeks of planning, 3 days straight of work, numerous frustrations, and I finally have a finished product, jank and all. Was it worth it? Yes, it was. For old time's sake. So, I lied a teeny bit at the beginning. The real last step of filmmaking is distribution, but that's normally handled by, can you guess? That's right, distributors. I'm running an indie operation here, so I'll have to distribute it myself. All that is to say that after some consideration, I've decided to post this video and the machinima itself separately. There will be an info card and a link in the description down below to it, and an info card and doobly-doo link to this video on the machinima. I don't think I've ever put this much effort into a singular video. I mean, we're talking days here. All because I was being nostalgic and wanted to make a Sims machinima for the funsies. Looking back, I realized it's been 6 years since I did this last. I honestly hadn't realized time passed that quickly, but it has. Feels like yesterday that I was sat at this exact same desk doing this exact same thing. I don't want to get too sentimental because ew, but I will say, this experience brought me back. So, what have I learned or realized from this? Well, I miss filmmaking, actual filmmaking. Not to diss machinimators or anything, but when Miss Rona came to town, we, meaning my film program, were in the middle of production for a web series we wrote last semester, and now all of that is up in the air. I'm not even 100% sure that in-person classes will resume next semester. School says they will, but the state of things right now, I don't know. I miss being behind a camera, I miss the editing room, I miss our classroom, since we only have one, and I really, really miss my friends and classmates. Listen, I know I said I wouldn't get all sentimental, but it just happened, okay? So, I can't make live action films now, and it'll probably be that way for a while, but for the time being, I kinda want to get back into making machinimas again. Deciding 2 years ago to invest my time into becoming a filmmaker, or at the very least facilitating in the creation of films, seemed like an out-of-character decision for me at the time. But as it turns out, I've always wanted to do this. Okay, I'm serious. No more sentimentality. So, what's next? Well, I have to voice this script and edit together this video, duh. But after that, well, I posted on Twitter yesterday, or a couple of days ago, I don't know what time is anymore, that I found some of my old Sims 2 machinimas from 2014. Do with that information what you will, I guess. And, like I said, I do want to make more machinimas, but maybe it's time I change mediums. Listen, The Sims 2 is good and all, but at its core, it's an old and finicky program that is essentially held together by duct tape. I decided during this process that I want to give a Sims 4 machinima a genuine go. I'll be almost completely new to it, so it'll be an interesting process to document, but until then, I've got a really long video ahead of me, so I'll see you then, or I guess since this is the end of the video, I've already seen you. I don't know, man, I'm so tired.